Across Africa, Ghana has the highest concentration of people and infrastructure along the coastal belt. More than 2.5 million Ghanaians live along the coast. In this edition of Hotline, I continue my tour of coastal Ghana to assess the effect that global warming and its attendant sea level rise is having on coastal communities. Thousands of these people and infrastructure have been submerged as the level of the sea rises each passing day, thanks to climate change.
There are two reasons why the sea level rise. The first one is, in simple terms, very, very, very simple terms. When there is warming, the sea expands, okay? It expands. And as it expands, it's like bubbling, not with the physical eye. And so it spills over. The second thing is that we have ice. We had the Arctic and Antarctic very highly frozen. And these are all thinning because of warming of our environment. So that the ice is melting and it is filling our seas. They have nowhere to go. And so when it does that, it just rises. And so the underlying communities, the deltas, they suffer.
Ada Totope in the Greater Accra region is a community with a population of about 3,000 people. It is located on the Ada Peninsula, uniquely sandwiched between the sea and the Songo Lagoon. The main livelihood of residents here is fishing. Theophilus Agbakla is the chief of the community.
Now the village, about some 15 years, 20 years ago, was about 1.5 to 2 kilometers away from the sea. But today, as you see it, it's less than 20 meters. Why? Because of the sea erosion.
Ada Totope has seen the sea break down and wash away close to a dozen homes over the last 30 years. But an even greater number of homes has been buried in the sand. As the sea moves closer to the settlements, it sweeps loads of sand into homes to the extent that they are no longer habitable. What I see here are lots of roofless brick structures with sand in them, reaching as high as the window level.
Now if you just look behind, you see my father's house, which is completely buried. So we had to relocate. My father himself is no more. I had to relocate. And you know, when we talk of relocation, you know the social problem that it will pose.
Those who used to live here now have to put up with family and friends on the other side of town, crowding themselves into small rooms in compound houses without basic amenities like toilet facilities. Simon Dogbe is a carpenter and has 8 children. He used to live in a 5-bedroom house beside the sea here. After their home was repeatedly flooded with seawater and filled with sand to the window level, they had no option but to move out of here in 2005.
What he's saying is that 10 years ago, the sea was a little far away from here. And they have a family of about 20 people living here. But they had to relocate because of the effect of the sea erosion.
This used to be the roofing of the house, which was very high above. This used to be the upper part of the structure. What we're seeing here are the windows of the structure as it used to exist more than 10 years ago. Well, below the window level, all the rest of the structure, which most likely is as tall as what is left at the top of it, have actually been buried right under the sand, rendering this structure inhabitable and rendering the thousands of cities that those who built it had invested into this particular structure a wasted amount. This again is the entrance to this structure as it used to exist then. You can see the cracks in the building and all of that, but now we see only the top part of the structure. The other lower parts have all been submerged deep down the sand, which has been swept onto this side of the shore thanks to the rise in the sea level. Let's get inside and see how the inner part of this structure looks like. Again, a lot of sand filling up the entire place, making it impossible for the residents who used to live here to continue habiting here. This is not the only home that is gone. I meet 50-year-old John Mauji. He has 2 wives and 8 children. Poor fisherman Mauji talks about his struggle to build his home over a period of 30 years. But it all became a fruitless adventure 5 years ago. The sea took it.
My house has been destroyed by the sea, and I'm living with friends. I don't even have any place to stay.
The
sea was coming, and the volume of water that was coming was so huge that he was trying to salvage his children, his properties, and people were hurt. He himself was hurt, the wife was hurt, and finally he had to quit and go and live with friends.
It's a community battered by the sea, and there's a lot of wreckage all around here. Many landlords here have become tenants. Rich men and women have been left destitute. 61-year-old Tete Hoka was born here.
It affected very, very much. It destroyed. This is my house. It has destroyed all my children. I have to go and stay with my friends. None so as you are seeing me here.
Here in Ada Totope, government began the construction of a sea defense wall about 10 years ago. But the project has been abandoned since.
As Zanya, where the sea enters the sea, the estuary, to this place, there are 16 communities. And of the 16 communities, this community Totope is the worst affected. But I don't know, unfortunately, less than 100 meters into the village, the project stopped there. So what do you think will happen to the people of Totope? If we had to go to the district assembly, talk to the district chief executive, Honorable John Nuruddin Ahotu, and he never stepped here. That's why I must be frank and be very frank with that. The MP had several interactions. Honorable Doyokujo Ganza, Comfort Doyokujo Ganza. We had several interactions with her, and she never came to see our fate. So at times we say that the development is highly selective and discriminative.
The community is now cut off from the rest of the country. Portions of the roads here have been washed away by the sea, and what is left is covered with sand. The bus station that existed here is no more. Getting sick people out of the community for treatment during emergency situations is always difficult. And the rough sea has killed some young men and women here, as the chief explains.
The station was here, so we take the cars from here through Pute to Ada Foah, but the sea has covered it.
So the road is gone?
It's gone into the sea. Currently, Totope is cut off from the rest of the towns, the other towns. And when people are sick, especially pregnant women, you have to carry them in an armchair to Pute, the school, 600 meters before they take a car. And people even die. When you look at the rise in the sea level, it killed 3 people. The volume of the water hit them and they died.
Accra, Ghana's capital and the abode of the country's political elite, is also under threat. A study in 2006 found that Accra's coast once existed between 12 and 18 meters into the current areas covered by the Atlantic Ocean. Dr. Apianin Ado of the University of Ghana's Marine and Fisheries Department is warning that at this rate of the rise of the sea level, Several of Accra's monuments will be submerged in the next few decades.
We embarked on that study, and we used what we call numerical models approach to really try to understand what was going on there. And we realized that in the next 50 years, if nothing is done about the Osu Castle area there, we may lose it in the next 50 years. And then in the next 100 years, we are likely to lose the Independence Square. And then in the next 150 years, we are likely to lose the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum if the sea level rise continue as we are experiencing now and nothing is done about the situation on the ground.
Scientists predict that additionally, the Asumji Park, the Kwalebu Teaching Hospital, the Densu wetlands, and up to 1 kilometer of land from the sea in Greater Accra region would be submerged by 2100. About 645,000 people and 900 buildings will be affected. A lot more people will be displaced, resulting in social upheavals that could reach uncontainable limits. Achiteti, a village in the Volta region, is another badly hit community. More than 50% of the community's lands have been taken over by the sea. The community has now been cut off permanently. This entire area used to be bare land where residents walk about and get onto the seashore to undertake their fishing activities. But for years now, the rise of the sea level has created a number of smaller water bodies between the seashore and the community, making it impossible for the residents to easily cross. Well, most portions of the community have been cut off by the seawater finding its way beyond the banks. And now, in order for residents to get to the seashore and back, they need to walk through this water body in order to get the activities undertaken. Beyond the submerged homes, residents have had to abandon a number of houses near the sea for their own safety. Roads leading to the community have been buried by the sea and sand. Economic activity in the community has ground to a halt with the collapse of London beaches here.
This community, or Achiteti community, happened to be one of the landing beach for the whole district over here, Kita district over here before. So you see that the ship and other things, they come down here, offload their goods over here, same sums to Adan and some to Kita and other communities around Kita. All these properties of the government perished. So now the business of the town is fishing. So no other government work going on in this community. Everything has perished.
Direct human activities, including sand winning and other illegal acts along the sea, have been identified as major contributory factors to the problem.
I know that there's a ban on sand mining. Sand mining is a critical thing. We have what we call the sediment budget. So if you take sand from the coastal area, you are, creating a situation whereby there's going to be a sediment deficit. And once there's a deficit, the system will rearrange to try and correct that, deficit, and that will result in erosion. So, practices that tends to create favorable environment for erosion to occur must be stopped. And the major one is, sand mining and overharvesting of vegetation, trees within the coastal area. We should put a stop to it. Yeah.
The Environmental Protection Agency is worried that state institutions like the courts have not been supportive in helping crack down on those who destroy the environment. Angelina Mensah is head of public affairs.
We do a lot of enforcement, but the court systems are slow. And we need the help of the assemblies because they have courts. And therefore, the EPA will do its job all right. The EPA will do its environmental awareness creation all right. We will do our enforcement, but we need the support of the court. We need the support of the police. We've been trying to do training with the judges and the police for them to understand the technicalities of the environment and also for them to give us a skill in how to do prosecutions.
Government says it is working to strengthen state institutions to help deal with the problem. Helen Intoso is the Volta Regional Minister.
As for sand winning, we have told the district assemblies, we have meetings upon meetings, and we have told them that they should stop the people from winning sand. because that's also affecting the communities. Because if you win sand, you create some sort of space for, so that when the sea rises, to definitely hit where they have win the sand. So we've told them to stop winning sand. That this assembly should, they should enact some bylaws that when they get people winning sand, they should be fined.
Are they doing that? Are the district assemblies heeding to this directive you've given them?
I don't think they're doing that yet, but we're going to press on them.
Experts are worried the destruction of homes, farmlands, roads, electricity and water infrastructure, industries and other properties along the coastal belt has the potential to negate a lot of the development gains the country has made over the years and deepen poverty further. Recently, Ghana joined more than 170 countries around the world to sign an agreement in Paris on how to deal with climate change. The EPA's PRO says it's a shared responsibility nations and citizens must bear.
So we're doing business as usual. We have no respect for nature. We have no respect for the environment. We're very, very indisciplined. And then the issue of maximizing profit, development, the consumption of fossil fuels in the form of petrol, coal, is also on the rise. I mean, business has taken over the morality of the whole concept of environment. And therefore, the issues of global warming is quite getting to its tipping point.
As indicated, the root cause of the difficulties these communities face is climate change and global warming. Global warming is essentially a rise in the temperature of the Earth, attributed mainly to increased levels of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, produced by the use of fossil fuels in cars, industries, etc. Government recognizes the damage climate change is doing to lives and property and has thus adopted a national climate change adaptation policy that details specific recommendations on how to deal with the problem. But Director of the Institute of Environment and Sanitation Studies at the University of Ghana, Professor Chris Gordon, is not impressed with the state's efforts at tackling the menace.
Well, there are many things that government can do by acting as a role model for the rest of Ghanaian society on what is appropriate and what is inappropriate. So many buildings are going up which are basically greenhouses, solid glass walls and windows that cannot open, which means they have to be air conditioned all the time. We have large vehicles, 5.7 liter engines being used by ministers and so forth for driving around Accra. Absolute waste of everybody's resources. There are things that they could do to show that they are serious about climate change, which I do not think they are doing. We have loss of lands. For example, Accra was supposed to have a green belt. Where is that green belt now? Successive governments have changed the green belt of Accra into urban housing. And this is actually driven by the politicians who give out the land, most of which was government-acquired land, as favors. So I'm sure you're aware of the current issue around Achimota School, which is one of the few remaining green areas in Accra. There's a push to have a lot of that land reallocated for housing. Why should that be? Knowing that the green areas act as the lungs of the city and as a carbon sink. So what is happening is that we are taking short-term actions without looking at the long-term consequences. And as a result, we are mortgaging the future of the young people who follow us.
All is not lost yet, but mankind must wake up to this threat climate change is causing to human habitation on Earth, or man will live to regret the price of inaction. For Hotline, my name is Joseph Opoku Gakpo.